Hey, help support the show by joining the Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. Also hit that like button to subscribe if you want more Cavs-focused content.
So much to talk about today. The Cavs beat the Brooklyn Nets. The Cavs also have added a wing to the roster in Javonte Green. A lot to get to. We'll try to get to it all in this video. First things first, make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell if you haven't, so you're locked in here for all the Cavs stuff throughout the rest of the years. Your Cleveland Cavaliers are 45-10, which is an insane record, right? Brooklyn coming into this game 20-35. So again, it's one of those victories. I think the Cavs, by the time the starters left the court, we're up by 20. On paper, this victory is not going to do much for most people. What I liked in this game was how scrappy it was and how well the Cavs responded to that physical challenge. Again, it's not like the Brooklyn Nets are uniquely suited to win a really physical game, right? They're not a giant team. They're not a team that has a ton of size to them. And D'Angelo Russell got hurt, I think, halfway through this game. So, again, the Cavs should be able to physically win these kind of battles. It's just nice to see it, right? Jarrett Allen, I thought, was the best player on the court today for the Cavs. 16 and 20. Incredible work. Got a block and I think a steal on the other end, played tremendous defense all game. He did all that in 25 minutes, y'all. Like, Jarrett Allen did all of that on short minutes. And it's interesting, too, because the Cavs played the New York Knicks tomorrow. Obviously, a huge game against the New York Knicks on ESPN. And what's interesting is I think no Cavs starter today played over 30 minutes. You look at New York, right? And again, it's a back-to-back game. New York played. It's a back-to-back for them. For the Cavs, they're home after a back-to-back. New York, they're going to be on the road after a back-to-back. New York just played a game versus Chicago Bulls, and almost every starter except Jalen Brunson was over 40 minutes in that game. It went to overtime, but almost every single starter was over 40 minutes. Jalen Brunson, 38 minutes, 46 minutes, 44 for Mikal Bridges. Karl-Anthony Towns played 43. Miles McBride played 42. So it's going to be interesting to see if that manifests itself in this Cavs game versus the Nets. I mean, not the Nets, the Knicks tomorrow, because that is just a crazy minute disparity. Like, we're talking about 14 plus 14 on the Knicks for coming into this game tomorrow on just like Evan Mobley, if you compare that number to where Karl-Anthony Towns is. It's going to be interesting to see if that manifests itself. What we saw in this Cavs game versus the Brooklyn Nets, though, thought the Cavs offensively looked a little rusty to start this game. I think overall, even when the Cavs got things going in the middle of the third quarter, and I think a lot of that has to do with how Jarrett Allen took over the middle part of the third quarter. Like, he legit was the best player on the court. They took over, they started making more shots, and it started looking more and more like the Cavs team were used to. That's when they eventually went on an insane run. I think a 20-2 run during this game. And by the way, Brooklyn didn't call a timeout. They just let the Cavs go on a 20-2 run with no timeouts. I was shocked. Like, Donovan Mitchell made a three to make it like a 12-2 run. And I was like, okay, they're going to call a timeout. And they didn't call a timeout for another 8 points. It was insane. It was like, that was one of those moments where you can obviously see that the Brooklyn Nets coach was using this as some kind of like opportunity to teach something. What he was trying to teach, I have no clue, but he was trying to teach something. But yeah, in this game, I think Jarrett Allen was probably the best player on the floor. Donovan Mitchell was a high scorer in this game, had 26, my bad. And what, 26, 5, and 2? So, I mean, like, don't get me wrong here. Donovan Mitchell was hooping, just wasn't as efficient as like Jarrett was. Jarrett was 8 of 9 from the floor. Donovan 8 of 21 from the floor. Jarrett had less points, but 20 rebounds, 7 of them offensive boards. Like, that's crazy work. Jarrett Allen was doing crazy work in this game. Like, give him the crown for tonight. That was the best player on the floor. Darius Garland also played well in this game. I thought he was pretty efficient. Darius is settling in to this nice zone with the Cavs right now offensively, where he's just going to get a smooth, really clean, efficient 18 points. And if you need to lean on him in the fourth quarter, he's getting some buckets at will. Like, I think what Darius does well is he knows when to turn it on and when to get it going, like when to get himself going offensively to get other guys going. So I think in that third quarter, Darius got himself going a little bit, right? And that started to open up stuff for Jared Allen and Evan Mobley and everybody else that shared the floor with them. That's something I think Darius has really got a great feel for. And when you hear people talk about Darius and they compare him, like JJ Redick used to compare him to Chris Paul all the time. This is the stuff that I think makes JJ Redick feel like there's some Chris Paul and Darius Garland. It's just that ability to just maestro the game. And I think Darius is really like, that's where he's taking this next level leap to this season in his ability to just maestro the game. Because this was a fantastic example of how Darius, despite not getting a ton of like shots up in this one, just orchestrates the game really well. 18, 9 assists, right? A couple of rebounds, 3 steals, really, really good here. Max Strus was not great. 2 of 10 from the floor, 1 of 8 from 3. Not a great night for him. I wonder what they're going to do once Dean Wade comes back. Are they going to try Dean Wade as the starting wing? I get the feeling that they're going to try to have Dean Wade be the starting wing. This just in, as I was editing this video, so this is a little bit out of sequence, they just announced, Kenny Atkinson just announced that Dean Wade's going to be back against the New York Knicks. So we're going to find out real soon. But I do think it's important to know like what the dynamic with Dean Wade being back is going to do to not DeAndre Hunter. I think DeAndre Hunter's going to get 27, 30 minutes a game, and then in the playoffs about 35 minutes a game regardless, right? He's one of the most important pieces on this Cavs team outside the core four. I wonder what Dean Wade being back does to either Isaac Okoro or Max Strus. Like somebody's got to be out of minutes here, right? So I'm guessing it's going to be Okoro, and they keep Strus somehow, like not in the starting lineup, but in the rotation. Really excited to see what Kenny's going to put together now that we know we're going to go into this game with hopefully a pretty healthy roster against the New York Knicks for the first time since you traded for DeAndre Hunter. So yeah, that's going to be another thing to look forward to tomorrow. So make sure you're locked in, watch this game, man. And then bring DeAndre Hunter off the bench. But it's going to be one of those situations where DeAndre is going to come off the bench but get more minutes, especially in playoff games. I'm interested to see how they did it. They stacked some of these lineups in an interesting fashion. I think at one point we had Evan out there with Isaac Okoro and DeAndre Hunter in what felt like was a super defensive-oriented lineup. What I liked about that lineup was that it did put more pressure on DeAndre Hunter to create. So we got to see a little bit more of his shot creation ability. What I was most impressed with in this game, because DeAndre didn't like have a great game, only 9 points, 3 of 10 from the field. It wasn't an amazing game, but he did make 2 really big, really clutch threes. I think DeAndre Hunter's ability to shoot threes off the dribble, on top of his ability to shoot it off the catch, it's going to be really important for this team. His 3-point shooting ability, that's seriously where he's going to help a ton on top of his size. Defensively, I thought he had a much better game this time around than he had last time. I'm just interested. I think it's going to take a little bit of time for him and Evan Mobley to gain that chemistry they need on pick and roll switches defensively, just knowing when to take, when to not. Because like I've seen them a couple of times get a little confused on who's going to take what, who's going to roll what. But once they get that chemistry down, or hopefully by the end of the season they do have that down, I think that's going to be a really solid defensive lineup, especially if you could throw Isaac Okoro out there. So I think that's going to be interesting to see going forward, just how the Cavs do. And that brings me to this new player that the Cavs have signed, right? They added another wing to the roster. So Javonte Green is the Cavs buyout. I know a lot of people wanted a backup center. It didn't look like there was a lot there in backup center world after the buyouts. So Javonte Green, they just went best player with the fit. I don't mind it. I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm some kind of like Javonte Green expert. I'm not going to sit here and act like I've watched a ton of Javonte Green. What I hear from people who I trust have watched Javonte Green is that he is a pretty good defensive wing. So somebody who's long, gets steals, gets rebounds. Like basically, if you run into a situation where defensively you're just getting ran through, he could be somebody in an emergency you could throw out there to stop the bleeding. So I think having that piece, and I talk about this all the time on this channel at least, how a coach's ability to adjust is going to be limited to the chess pieces that he has on his bench. And I think Javonte Green is another piece that he could go to, Kenny Atkinson can go to in a playoff series to make an adjustment here or there. It might end up being just like 5 to 10 minutes, but having Javonte Green basically be this buffer between having to play Jalen Tyson or somebody like that in the playoffs, I think is worth bringing him on. And I think that's basically what Javonte Green is going to be. He's going to be this buffer piece between, hey, we got to play Jalen Tyson in the playoffs for whatever reason. Now you would go to Javonte Green for whatever those minutes might have been if you would have had to lean on Jalen. No disrespect to Jalen Tyson. He's just a rookie. And while I am encouraged with where Jalen Tyson is so far in his development, I think he has had his development go a little bit faster than people expected. I still don't think he's ready for playoff minutes, and Javonte Green's a legit NBA rotational guy that you could throw in there for similar purposes, right? Get some activity going, get some rebounds, defense, steals, stuff like that, energy, right? You just need him out there. Maybe it'd be 2 games out the whole playoffs he might play, and it might be 10 minutes out the whole playoffs he might play. But that's kind of the purpose that I envision based on what I've heard about him. I don't want to get my expectations too high because that tends to happen where, you know, the Cavs sign somebody, we get all excited and we set our expectations too high, and then we're asking, why isn't Kenny Atkinson playing Javonte Green 20 minutes a game or some shit like that? I'm not going to get my expectations up like that. I'm just excited about the signing and excited about where the Cavs are now in their wing depth. It's just such a dramatically better situation than it was before. And look, like having that extra size on this team, it's not a coincidence that we're seeing like 20 rebound Jared Allen games, or, you know, what Evan Mobley did today. I thought he was pretty impressive. 18 to 30. It's so damn hard. Like sometimes y'all give me stuff in the comment section because I didn't bring up somebody who was impressive. I need y'all to understand this Cavs team is hard to talk about everybody who plays well in the game because they're so good. Right, so I might miss a play. I almost forgot about Evan Mobley, right? We 12 minutes into this video. I ain't talking about Evan Mobley. Evan Mobley had an and one in this game where he got fouled by Cam Johnson and then just went reverse and dunked it. So much impressive stuff happened in this game where I don't even think the Cavs played particularly well. I almost forgot about that. That just tells you the level that this Cavs team is on. You know, they're playing at a high level. They're a really, really good basketball team. So the expectations are super high. But yeah, Evan Mobley, I thought, played really well in this game. Defensively, he's the man. It looked like he was on a mission to show everybody he's going to be Defensive Player of the Year with Wemby being out for the season. A steal, 3 blocks. Able to switch on the perimeter. This dude's unreal, man. This, like, Kevin Garnett is the only player that does what Evan does defensively on a regular basis at a higher level, right? Like back in the day, KG used to do all this stuff at a higher level, but Evan is growing into it, man. And you got to be excited about that. Yeah. So super excited about the game that Evan had. Darius, Jared. I thought Jared was the best player on the court today. Who else played well? Isaac Okoro came back. He wasn't super impressive, but I thought he was fine out there. I think he was finding his feet defensively. He wasn't the same defensive juggernaut, Isaac. And I'm really interested to see if he can stay healthy for a longer period of time, which tends to be a problem with Isaac. what that lineup with DeAndre, Evan Mobley, and Isaac Okoro looks like, where you have now this undersized team now having a ton of size with them, what that lineup looks like when you can still space and shoot, because all three of those players that we just mentioned, all 3-point threats as well. So very interesting lineup. And look, Kenny's going to throw together a bunch of different lineups. I'm excited to see how some of these mesh. Sam Merrill was fine in this game. Ty Jerome, he had a really good first half, kind of just didn't do much in the second half, but I don't think he was bad in this game here. Fun story, Naquan Tomlin made his NBA debut for the Cleveland Cavaliers in New York. He's a native New Yorker. So that's really cool for him. He got a free throw, and he got a bucket from the floor. So, that was nice to see. I think Tony Pesta dropped a really fun article recently on his social medias about him. So make sure you go check that out. But all in all, we know that the Cavs should take care of business against a team like Brooklyn. Now it's going to be interesting to see how they handle the New York Knicks. First time the Cavs have played the Knicks since the beginning of the season. In New York, they're going to be thirsty to get a win over some of the top teams in the East, because if you name a contender in the East, the New York Knicks have not beat them this season. They haven't beaten the Milwaukee Bucks, the Cleveland Cavaliers, or the Boston Celtics yet this season. So they're going to be desperate to try to get a win over one of these squads to prove to everybody that they do belong in that upper echelon conversation in the East. It's going to be interesting to see how it goes down, especially with them having to play 40-plus minutes for their starters. It's going to be interesting, given that the Cavs only had to play their starters 30 minutes. But y'all let me know in the comment section how y'all feeling. I'm going to have a great day. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.